Hey YouTube, it's Petey Two Finger, and I'm here to talk to you about this. Willie the Wimp is a it's a song by Stevie Ray Vaughan. I just heard it on WXRT, and
You've heard it before.
yeah, they just played it on the radio here in Chicago. This is live at the Mid Fins Festival 1988. Let me see if we can find a studio version of this for you guys. Um, yeah. Oh, here's a version live in Florida. So there's a few versions of Willie the Wimp that are up on YouTube that you can check out. Um, Here are the lyrics. Willie the Wimp was buried today. They laid him to rest in a special way. Sent him off in the finest style. Casket mobile really drove him wild. Kita bobitus. I'm talking about Willie the Wimp. You have to
Keep to
be
the
a
wimp.
nice baby.
Keep to the baby.
Southside Chicago will think of him often, talking about Willie the Wimp in his Cadillac Coffin. Willie the Wimp in his Cadillac Coffin. That casket looked like a fine Seville. He had a vanity license and a Cadillac grill. Willie was propped up in the driver's seat. He had diamonds on his fingers and a smile sweet. Fine red suit. He had the whole town talking. Willie the Wimp in his Cadillac Coffin. In his Cadillac to heaven, he was waving the banner. He left like he lived, in a lively manner, with $100 bills in his fingers tight. He had flowers for the wheels and flashing headlights. He had been wishing for wings. No way he was walking, talking about Willie the Wimp and his Cadillac Coffin. So we're going to go over to Wikipedia. Here he is, Fluky Stokes, attending his 30th wedding anniversary party from Chicago-based Jet Magazine. Born December 12th, 1937, passed away November 19th, 1986. He was an American reputed monster from Chicago, Illinois. Stokes was from the South Side, well known for his silk suits, diamond rings, and flamboyant lifestyle. As a drug trafficking kingpin and a pool hall owner, Stokes immortalized himself in Chicago by throwing a $200,000 party on his wedding anniversary. And in 1985, that wedding anniversary was in 1985, and a decadent funeral arranged for his murdered 28-year-old son, Willie the Wimp Stokes, in February 1984. The elder Stokes had his son buried in a Cadillac style coffin with $100 bills stuffed in between his diamond ring laden fingers. 2 years later, in November 1986, Fluky would also be murdered along with his chauffeur, sitting inside a 1986 Cadillac limousine while talking on his wireless phone. Stokes was 48 years old. So the Cadillac Coffin, he garnered international nobility for the arrangements he made for his son Willie the Wimp's funeral. The younger Stokes followed his father's example in trafficking narcotics and rivaled his dad's appetite for gambling. Fluky said of his son, he was a fine young man. He was very well liked and did a lot of gambling. Willie the Wimp was buried in a custom casket made to resemble a Cadillac Seville. After the viewing, he was propped up in the coffin with his hands on the steering wheel. The casket had functioning headlights and taillights that blinked, white wall tires, and a windshield with a vanity license plate that read Wimp, Stokes' nickname. He wore a flamin' red suit and a jaunty gray hat and diamond rings. Several $100 bills stuck out from between his fingers. Sounds like a song. Bill Carter and Ruth Ellsworth of Austin, Texas were reading the American Statesman one morning, and they read the syndicated column about Willie the Wimp. Carter said, I said to Ruth, this isn't a column, it's a song. They drove to the studio, and Carter said that in the 2 miles it took us to get there, we put together the music. Jimmy Vaughn was at the studio. He called his brother Stevie Ray Vaughan to tell him about it. Stevie liked the song, recorded it, and performed it live for his fans around the world. Much of the song's lyric came directly from the column, including a quote from Willie the Wimp's mother, where she described her husband's reason for wanting a extravagant funeral for their son. She said that her son left like he lived in a lively manner. It was worked into the verse of that song. It says, "In his Cadillac to heaven, in his Cadillac to heaven, he was waving that banner. He left like he lived in a lively manner." So Bill Carter first released the song as Willie the Wimp and his Cadillac Coffin on his '85 album Stompin' Grounds. Jimmy Vaughn played lead guitar on Carter's album, and his brother Stevie Ray released his version titled Willie the Wimp on his Live Alive album in July '86. The blues rock standard begins. Willie the Wimp was buried today. They laid him to rest in a special way, which leads into the full description of the decadence that was Willie the Wimp's funeral. The song mentions the casket mobile, Willie the Wimp's red suit, the money between his fingers, the headlights, the catcher fane, talking about Willie the Wimp and his Cadillac Coffin. Stevie Ray Vaughan performs the song live in concert at the Midfins Festival in Denmark in 1988. So he was ambushed, notwithstanding the 200,000 anniversary bash Fluky arranged for his wife, nor the wedding vows they renewed on that special occasion. He was with a mistress the day he was murdered. Stokes was killed by two men who laid in wait as he stopped to drop off his girlfriend Diane Miller outside her residence on 79th Street and South Ellis Avenue on November 19, 1986 at 12:38 a.m. Gunman armed with 12-gauge pump shotgun pointed at the windshield and shot out the glass. Then he proceeded to fire off more shells through the windshield through the vehicle's passenger side. Stokes died from gunshot wounds to his mouth and upper chest. His driver, Ronald Johnson, was killed by a secondary gunman firing a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. The woman ducked the assailant's line of fire, sprawling the back seat, and survived the attack uninjured. Stokes was described by authorities as the richest, most flamboyant drug dealer on Chicago's South Side, further stating that he was known to lose so much as $250,000 over a single weekend in Las Vegas. He seldom missed a night at the local racetracks. Although Stokes owned a local pool hall, law enforcement officials stated that Stokes was officially listed as unemployed and that he declared gambling on his income tax returns to account for his wealth. Unbeknownst to Stokes, the DEA was concluding an investigation, was preparing to serve him with federal grand jury indictment for drug racketeering, operating and continuing a criminal enterprise, and income tax evasion. They took out all of those 70s mobsters, all of those, what do you call them, ballers. They all got taken down with this tax bullshit. They couldn't get them for the actual crimes. They didn't have proof, and they eventually figured out, well, we can take them down for income tax evasion. So many of those gangsters, mobsters, and ballers got taken down by that. It's kind of ironic, kind of sad, it's kind of embarrassing. Garfield Hammond's assistant special agent in charge of the Chicago Drug Enforcement Agency said, Chicago has lost one of its greatest sources of supply for cocaine and heroin. Regarding Willie Stokes, he was renowned for his flamboyance, usually wearing suits of fine silk, his fingers weighted with diamond cluster rings as big as silver dollars, his forearms festooned with gold bracelets, a gem emblazoned watch on his right wrist with a gold chain and diamond-studded F for Fluky around his neck. However, on the day he died, he was wearing jogging clothes and no jewelry at all. The Cook County Medical Examiner recorded that Stokes died wearing blue sweatpants, powdered blue sweat shorts, and a red leather jacket, red t-shirt underneath a blue t-shirt with the word Michigan written on it, while sneakers, brown socks, and a black cap. They had a modest funeral was at the A.R. Luke Funeral Home on 78th Street and South Cottage Grove Avenue, which was also conducted for the ceremony of the younger Stokes. Over 7,000 people filed past Fluky's casket for a final glimpse of the slain mobster. Stokes was mostly spoken of with reverence by the crowd in attendance. One former young mourner said of Fluky, "I was walking on the same street I was walking. I went up to him, I spoke to him, he spoke back. I introduced myself, he shook my hand and everything." Mothers were seen lifting their children above the coffin so they could see Stokes. Adorned for his final viewing, he was laid in mahogany coffin with a custom-designed powder blue interior. Stokes wore tinted sunglasses, a blue suit, silk shirt, blue tie, handkerchief, blue python boots, and he was holding a portable telephone. The floral arrangements that surrounded him included cars and dice fashioned from polystyrene foam, illustrating his passion for luxury automobiles and his claim on his income tax that his riches came from gambling. So there you go. Story of Willie the Wimp and his Cadillac Coffin. Enjoy.